The Lenovo LOQ was one of the best budget gaming laptops of 2025. But it definitely had some flaws, which made it a bit worse than other laptops at the same price point. Well, Lenovo listened to that feedback, and it is better than ever. But is the LOQ still worth it? Let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, the LOQ is still very boring. But that is exactly what some people want, something that doesn't scream gamer. It still has a fully plastic body, but it doesn't necessarily feel cheap. And it's actually built quite well, although the keyboard does flex quite a lot. It's not the thinnest laptop, but it's also not thicker than any other gaming laptop. But it did get a little lighter than last year. It's still not exactly lightweight, but a weight reduction is always nice to see. On the inside, it got a couple of changes as well. The AMD model still comes with the same processor as last year, but its GPU now has a maximum TGP of 115 watts. Last year's model only went up to 100 watts, so that is quite the uplift. But of course, we'll have to see if it actually reaches those wattages during gaming. The LOQ now also has an option for a new Intel processor, but I couldn't get my hands on that one yet. For its port selection, it actually got some huge improvements. You've got basically every port you could ever need, but this year's model has a faster USB-C 4 port, and more importantly, it now has a USB-A port on every single side of the laptop, while last year's model just had nothing on the left side, which was a bit odd. It also has a new power brick, and with it being a whopping 245 watts, I don't think this thing is gonna be bottlenecked by its power. If you move around a lot, you can just bring a smaller charger with you too though, since it supports USB-C charging up to 100 watts. Now let's look at its keyboard. It does have a sort of RGB backlight, but you can only really control it by pressing FN and space, and cycling through the many color options. I feel like this could have been done a lot more intuitively, but whatever. The keyboard itself is great though. Lenovo makes some of the best laptop keyboards on the market, and that's no different here. Its keys have plenty of key travel and they sound nice and clicky. And for all the numpad lovers, it does have one. The only kind of stupid thing here is that you can't turn off this LED logo. You can only change its color. And in the dark, this is pretty annoying to look at. Moving down, we have its trackpad. And it's an alright size, but I personally really dislike it when trackpads are off-center to the left. I mean, I constantly touch this thing while playing games. But then again, some people do like this position. It's made of plastic, so it does feel a bit cheap, and the clicks themselves, I mean, it's pretty mediocre. I've definitely had better. Most people are gonna use a mouse most of the time anyways, but it is important to mention. Moving up, we have its display. And this is where Lenovo really listened. It got quite some upgrades compared to last year. It now has a 16:10 aspect ratio instead of 16:9, so you've got a lot more vertical space to work with, which is awesome. And it got a higher refresh rate, which is already nice for gaming. But more importantly, they fixed the ghosting issue that last year's model had. The pixel response times on the old one made it look almost like a 60Hz display, and games just looked a bit blurry. Well, they fixed that, and this model feels way better to use. The rest of the panel though stayed mostly unchanged, so its colors are pretty good, but it still has some backlight bleeding, which is a little visible in the dark, and it does not have the best viewing angles. Now, to my surprise, the maximum brightness is still just 300 nits, which in my opinion is just way too little in 2026. And while a matte display coating does prevent reflections kind of, with the low maximum brightness that it has, you are not gonna like sitting next to a window or using this thing outside. You'll get quite some glare. They did change the LOQ's hinge though. It still opens up to a full 180 degrees, and while it does feel a little more sturdy, it still wobbles around a lot if you directly tap it. So I wouldn't call it that much better. Now, when it comes to speakers, that's usually where most manufacturers cheap out on. So did Lenovo improve the ones on the LOQ at all? Well, no, they're still the same. It does get quite loud and has some okay bass, but it could definitely use more. It only has down-firing speakers, so they do sound a bit muffled, but for basic use, they should be fine. The LOQ's microphone is pretty bad. You can still understand what I'm saying, but it ain't winning any prizes. It does have just a good webcam though, which is pretty surprising at this price point. But I know what you're all here for. You want to see how fast this thing is. Well, it has a pretty mediocre processor, but with that extra 15 watts for its RTX 5060, how does it do? Well, in Cinebench R23, it is mediocre. It didn't get any faster than last year, so the Ryzen 7 250 still performs basically like a 3-year-old processor. I mean, it basically is just a 3-year-old processor with a different name. But in 3D Mark TimeSpy, it does perform very, very well for an RTX 5060. For some odd reason, this is actually the fastest laptop 5060 I've seen so far. So at least in benchmarks, that extra wattage does do quite a lot. But in actual real-world use, its CPU and GPU are gonna be fighting for those watts. So let's see how fast it really is by playing some actual games.
What did you do, man? No!
Well, like expected, the LOQ plays games pretty damn well. It got frame rates well above 60 FPS in both CPU and GPU intensive games. I mean, it does help that it only has a resolution of 1200p. But is it faster than last year's LOQ? Well, in CS2 and Red Dead Redemption 2, it got quite a performance uplift. So at least here, it did get considerably faster. But in every other game, CPU or GPU intensive, it basically stayed the same within margin of error. So does the new LOQ even use those extra 15 watts it got for its 5060? Well, when we compare last year's 5060 wattages to this year in Cyberpunk, yes, it is actively using 15 watts more. But in Cyberpunk, they got virtually the same frame rates, so I don't think it's doing much in that title. You could try limiting the processor's max wattage so that the GPU can use more power, but that can only actually make it faster in very GPU-intensive games, like Cyberpunk. Look, the simple truth is, this laptop is being heavily limited by that mediocre processor from 2023. So even if it does have those 15 extra watts for its GPU, it's just being held back. Apart from that, it is a little faster than last year's LOQ, but I wouldn't be upgrading to this just for that little bump of performance. But what about cooling? This is a pretty chonky laptop, so does it stay cooled well? Yes, it stays cooled very well. Its processor never even comes close to its thermal limit, even if you boost the hell out of it. and its GPU stays cruising along roughly 20 degrees under its maximum temperature. The cooling system in this laptop could easily handle an RTX 5070 and hell, maybe even a 5080. So it also doesn't get too loud. Because this laptop has such an overkill cooling system, it just doesn't need to ramp up its fans that much to stay cool. But what do all of these things mean for battery life? Well, I tested its battery in two different scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until its battery died, with its display at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with its dedicated GPU turned off. And it doesn't last super long. Like I said before, the Ryzen 7 250 is basically just a 3-year-old chip with a different name. So it has about the efficiency of a 3-year-old processor. It has no dedicated efficiency cores, so it can't really use much less power on battery. Now, when you're actually using your laptop, this number is likely going to be a lot lower, so you'd better bring your charger with you. In the gaming tests, I played Minecraft until its battery died, with the same settings as before. Yeah, it doesn't last very long. It doesn't even reach 2 hours in Minecraft, and in heavier games, it's likely not even gonna last an hour. So I would just recommend bringing a charger with you everywhere you go. But how good is this thing's upgradeability? It is a bit chunky, so does it have the internal space for modular components? Well, yes, definitely. It has fully upgradable RAM. With 2 SODIMM slots, you can slot this thing with up to 96 GB of memory. It also has 2 M.2 SSD slots, so you can easily upgrade storage without having to reinstall Windows. And it also has a Wi-Fi card slot, so you're not stuck with Wi-Fi 6. Ironically enough, the cheapest laptop I've reviewed this year actually has the most upgradeability. But let's get to pricing, because while this may be a budget gaming laptop, is it actually affordable? Well, at the time of recording, kind of. This RTX 5060 model can be found for around 1100 euros in Europe. And that is genuinely a good price, considering we're currently going through a RAM shortage. But in the USA, it's actually quite a bit more expensive from what I can see. Although it hasn't been released everywhere yet. Now, 1100 bucks is still a lot of money for most people. So what is the competition like at this price point? Well, obviously, last year's LOQ is competition. I mean, it is cheaper since it's already been out for a year. But the only other laptop that I could find that matches it in price is the Asus TUF A14. And this is a higher quality device in every way, but it's also smaller. I'll post some links in the description down below for if you're interested in any one of these models. Alright, let's get to a conclusion here. Is the 2026 LOQ 15 worth it? Well, yes, but there are still better options. It got some pretty nice upgrades compared to last year. It now finally has a smooth display that isn't washed out while moving in games. It's actually really fast GPU-wise. I mean, 15 watts does help for that 5060. And it is relatively cheap, considering we're currently in the RAM-pocalypse. But it is still lacking some key things. 300 nits of brightness is just not enough. If you have any lights in your room, this is gonna be annoying to use. And while its GPU is quite fast, it is being held back so hard by that 3-year-old processor. I would say the TUF A14 is a better option if you can find it at the same price, but only if you're okay with a smaller display. So conclusion, the 2026 LOQ is a nice upgrade compared to last year. And it is a great all-around budget gaming laptop. And it is better than most competition around the same price point. But if you can find the Asus TUF A14 around this price, I would go with that if you're okay with a smaller display. If you can't find that one, this is a great laptop, and you're gonna enjoy it nonetheless. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frostydude, Dropzone1, Aki, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Eric the Red, Ghost Data, Walter, Abdullah, Lewis, and Vice. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.
That was scary. It's also pretty scary. Bazinga!